All right, special. I mean, I'm so fired up for this. We got Rusty Mansell On3, just coming off the NIL On3 event.
Yeah, man.
Let's start there. What was that like? And first time you guys, Shannon, Terry, doing all that, and it sounds like you guys knocked it out of the park.
For the first time doing something, you obviously kind of worry how things are going to go, how's it going to flow, and we're trying to convince the 35 top players in the country for 2024 who are busy. They're all about to take visits. They're getting pulled on.
Right.
To come spend 2 days in Nashville and really some people that you don't know. Just blown away. Absolutely couldn't. We just, to be honest, we crushed it. But we didn't crush it. We crushed it educating. And we're all in this together. We're all learning NIL, these players and these parents. But, my feedback this morning from my phone from parents were just like, thank you. I mean, my son, we needed to hear that. The dads, like, we don't know either. So
yeah,
it was awesome, man. It was an unbelievable event.
And what kind of, I know you had Kurt Herbstreit, you had Libby
Dunn, Kirk Herbstreit. We had all kind of different, financial speakers and kind of, some of the slides yesterday. This is how I know, Mike, that it was a good event. Kids weren't in their phones.
Mm.
So when they throw up $100,000 on a screen and you realize you're only getting 50 of that because of taxes,
right,
before you do anything else,
mm-hmm.
And I think kids really see, hey, this is real world. If NIL, you're going to be an adult right now. You're going to start getting adult money. You got to do adult things. So with taxes and Social Security and all those kind of things. And I don't think these kids knew, what a W-2.
Right.
I mean, so it was great. It was a fantastic event, and the kids were great. Very respectful. And
what do you think is the best lesson they learned from speaking to them, speaking to their families? What's their main takeaway?
I think Shannon Terry, not just because he's my guy, but I think he knocked it out with one quote, and it's play the long game. These decisions, NIL should not be the number one factor. No, everybody understands in reality it is a part of the process now, period. It is a part. But you play the long game, the 40-year decision. You know what I mean? Like, where do you want to live after you get done with college? And, what coach do you trust the most that's going to develop you and make you a better human being,
mm-hmm.
a father, those types of things. So I really thought Shannon started the day yesterday with a great message. And I had one of the parents walk up to me yesterday and said, we've been so focused on NIL that we really needed to regroup and understand how much an education is worth.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was fantastic.
Now, whenever I get someone in here, Rusty, I love to talk about their background and their coming up, because it's so interesting to me in this business. It seems like everybody's got a different story to tell.
Sure.
And I had no idea. I caught the interview you did with Shannon when you joined On3.
Yeah.
And were you working in a metal shop?
I worked from 1997 to 2001. I worked in a steel mill. And I'm telling you, Mike, honest to God, I tell you, you could walk in places and it would melt the rubber off your feet. And I worked 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And, I remember I would work, and we'd go into work at 6 in the morning, and our first break was at 8. So at 8 o'clock, I got the paper out. I'd buy the paper on the way,
mm-hmm.
and I'm reading all the sports. Barely was internet at the time.
Right.
Couldn't get internet in the building anyway, so I'm having to read the paper. Get recruiting updates, who won last night, who's pitching tonight. Back in old days,
Yeah.
But man. So every time I have to go somewhere, like if I got to drive 5 hours to see 2 kids, I'm like, man, it's gonna be a long drive. I think, what would 1997 Rusty be doing? Well, he would kill to do what I'm about to do. You know what I mean? So I never lose that. And, do I work too much? Probably. But I also, I got a dream job. And
mm-hmm.
one thing I've always kind of said, I don't know the difference between a Monday and a Friday. It's not any different for me. Like when I was in the corporate world, man, Friday at 1, you're like, I'm alive again. You know what I mean? Like I'm breathing.
Working for the weekend.
Dude, I'm breathing. You know what I mean? But now Friday at 1 is no different than Monday at 1. It's just, I have been, way my career, especially the last couple of years, the way it's taken off, that's unbelievable. I've been so blessed.
Could you have ever imagined Rusty working at a steel mill to where you are today?
I am the co-chairman how the hell I don't know, but I am the co-chairman of the Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame. Like, I put a jacket on Champ Bailey, Herschel Walker, Charlie Ward.
Yeah.
Like these dudes last year. I'm like, what am I doing here? This little kid from Lindale, Georgia. Like, what am I doing? Like, how did this happen? But, man, it's just so blessed to do what I do. And, you know, I do games on TV. One of my old English bosses called me, and Andrew Kierton. He's been very influential. He's one of the first people that kind of believed in me in the corporate world and gave me that. So I always talk about Andrew. And he called me one night, you know, probably 7 or 8 years ago, and he goes, "Bloody hell, I just saw you on TV, and the police weren't involved. I'm proud of you." And that kind of summed it up. Like, if you'd have told somebody in 1997, I'm going to be on TV every week, it'd probably been like a show of cops. But, like, I'm getting paid to be on TV, like, which is crazy. You know?
What gave you, you know, the I don't know, strength's the right word, but just what made you leave that corporate job to get in this world? Because we were just talking about it.
Yeah.
There's literally nothing special about me, I don't think. I mean, I work hard, I put in the time, but anybody could be doing this. And it's, I hear all the time people say, "Man, I like what you do. How do you get into that?" Yeah. Anybody can do it. They just have to take that plunge, you know?
You have to be consistent, and that's what you do. I think that's what your audience knows, that every day you're going to show up, you want to do this.
Right.
You know, everybody can say, "Hey, I want to do your job." What I find is people get into this business and they get real comfortable.
Yeah.
And they kind of start slacking off and doing those things. And obviously with your growth, yeah, sure, a lot of people can buy everything you got right here and for 6 months do this. But you're in the long run. You're in the long, you know, you're in it for the long haul. Yeah. And with me, you know, I have to kind of reel myself in at times because I can get absorbed with it. And quite honestly, a couple years ago, I had a Power 5 school, not Georgia. Everybody thinks it's Georgia. I had a Power 5 school offer me everything, complete, the general manager of the recruiting department. And
just like Barton, huh?
Yeah. Would have been. Yeah, I was going to follow. I actually called Barton. You know, I called Barton and said, "Look, we need to talk about." You know, and you know, I thought about that, and I was like, you know what, man, that's probably not the most healthy thing for me because I don't know if I'd ever be able to turn off the switch. You know what I mean? Like recruiting is all day long, and I love it. You know, covering it and following it and meeting the kids and evaluating. So I just made that decision. Look, I'm going to be in this industry. This is what I want to do. I'm flattered. I had an opportunity, but I made the decision, and I stay consistent, man. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing. I just stay consistent, and that's what separates, I think, some of the people that's been more successful.
Right.
You know, Shannon Terry. I mean,
perfect example.
Perfect example.
I go back to that interview you had with him. You talk about relationships, that being key. That's a lost art.
Yep.
And I can speak from experience. You've always been kind to me.
Yep.
When you had, you know, you had nothing to gain for being nice to me. So why is that? You know, how do you foster those relationships? Why is that so important to you?
You know, I had a person, close friend of mine, 3 or 4 years ago, kind of tell me a conversation I'll never forget. It was like build your brand, and so I never turned down any opportunity. Man, I have spoke at middle school softball banquets. You know what I mean? And somehow I just spoke at another thing you talk about, like how the hell did I get here? I just spoke at my high school's senior graduation. Like I was the guy talking. I was like, what am I doing up here? Like I went to the principal's office more than I'm up here trying to talk to these kids. So, yeah, I think you just be nice, be a good person, man.
Yeah.
You know, we're you know, me and you both cover the business of college sports, and fans are crazy as hell, and they're passionate. That's why we got jobs, though.
Right.
I tell people all the time, look, you know, people will take shots at me on Twitter all the time, and I sometimes, you know, I just laugh. I'm like, dude, thank you for even giving a damn, because you're the reason I got a job. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I love that part of, I'm older now and kind of understand, but relationships, it's different, man. And so many young people that get into this thing want to kind of beat your chest. I'm the guy. What I have found, and Chad Simmons is a perfect example. Chad Simmons is probably the guy in recruiting the last 20 years, consistently. Mm-hmm. I get on his ass all the time. Chad, slow down. Quit going to Oregon this week. You don't have to go to Texas for 7-on-7. You know, he just grinds. But your work speaks for itself. And I think with you and your industry, they can see you so much and see how passionate you are about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can see people sometimes and go, man, I don't know if that person's going to make it. You know what I mean? But so I've always tried to be nice. I don't try to be any different. I'm who I am. I've always been that way. I'm around a lot of people. I don't get starstruck. We're all human beings,
Mm-hmm.
So I remember a couple of years ago, I got a chance to go to the Masters and got lucky, got some tickets, and I got real lucky and got kind of like the VIP tickets. So I walked in, and literally the two guys that greet you, like Walmart greeters now, was Lynn Swann and Peyton Manning. And they're like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, what? Again, what the hell am I doing here? Like, what am I doing, And so that, they're being humans. We're all human beings. Be nice, have fun. It's a great job. And I think that's one of the things. You're one of the few. I mean, I'm not a huge, podcast guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what you do so well is what people are learning to clip things up. You clip the best parts,
Yep.
Twitter, YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
shorts. I mean, now YouTube shorts is like nuts. So, but
Mm-hmm.
trying to get off the subject a little bit. But I just try to be nice, man. Try to be nice, build relationships, and if I can help anybody in any way or give advice, I don't try to sugarcoat the advice. If somebody calls me, I'm like, look, this is what I think you do well, and this is what I think you need to work on.
Yeah.
So,
well, now you got me curious at the Masters. Anybody else interesting there that you run into?
So you can't have a phone. You
Okay.
can't have a phone. They'll pat you down. It's like 1988. You just have to be in the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there at this table, and Jared Goff's like to the left. Condoleezza Rice is like right there. I'm like, what am I doing, man? Like, how in the hell am I sitting here, But dead serious. Like, you walk into this area and you walk behind, it's kind of a little VIP area. And Peyton Manning is literally in his jacket shaking your hand when you walk in. I'm like, this dude, that's unbelievable. And I'm an older guy, so I know exactly who Lynn Swann is,
Oh, yeah.
So it was crazy, man. They're proud of their merchandise there. I can tell you that. Wow. So they have not only you have the Masters gear, and they have the private place has their own gear.
Really?
So I was like, I got to get one of these shirts. I got to let everybody know I was there.
Yeah.
I grabbed that polo, and it's like $185. I was like, no, I'll just tell everybody I was here. Boy, he ain't paying $185 for no shirt ever. So, yeah.
So you made the big move to On3.
Yep.
I really want to ask you about that because, I've had a lot of people in here from 24/7 Sports.
Great company.
You've been there
company.
for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody that said a bad word about
No,
him, and
no.
Shannon Terry included.
Yeah,
I mean, sits here and props him up on this program.
Absolutely, yeah.
So why make the move to On3?
And I'll say this before I do anything: 24/7 was a life changer for me. It was a great company. It is a great company. Those are good people.
Yeah.
And when I told them I was leaving, they kind of asked why, and I think they probably knew that I was one of the targets. I was going to go with Shannon if the opportunity was right. He's my guy. He's not only my boss, we're friends, and he gave me an opportunity to be an owner. So that's a game changer. Shannon set me down, and I'll never forget the conversation. He goes, look, Rusty, you've put in your work. You've built yourself to this. I'm going to give you a deal that's going to change your life. And I have potential to keep growing for DawgsHQ, which is the On3 site, Georgia site, which is it's off to a crazy good start.
Yeah.
But, for Shannon to give me that opportunity, and, he said, I don't give these out. You earned this. So I was happy to hear that from him. And I think when 24/7 heard, look, I'm going to be an owner with a couple guys, some partners in this deal, they understood then. You can't match that. So, but have nothing but great things to say about 24/7. It was a great time, great company. I still try to kick Josh Pate and Will Fong's ass every day. But they're friends of mine. They're great people, man. Great company.
Right. But now that you're an owner, there's different stakes involved, right?
Oh yeah, I'm still trying to kick their ass every day now.
Right. I mean, what happens? I mean, God forbid, it's not going to happen. But if it goes under, I mean, that's on you, right?
Well, that's with any job. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's with any job. Like I said, I remember going to work for Shannon the first time in 2010, and I left a very good corporate job. I could have worked at that job the rest of my life, and you get the 3 weeks vacation every year, and and it's just that world. I remember sitting in that parking lot that day, leaving, going with a wife and 3 kids at the time. Like, it's on you now. Like, you're rolling the dice. Like, I was all in at that moment, and kind of had that moment, that crossroads. Like, I'm leaving this building. I'm not employed here anymore. I'm going to work for a startup website. Like, it's go time. And again, it was the best decision I ever made. And I think this decision to go with Shannon at On3 is going to be a life changer for me and my family.
Well, you keep talking about Shannon. What's it like to work for him? Because he's another one I've never had. I don't have any relationship with him.
Yep.
He's always been kind to me.
Yep.
He's very been supportive. He doesn't have to do anything for me. And I'm just curious. It seems like he's a hell of a guy to work for.
Oh, dude, he's a great guy. And I say we're friends. We don't talk a whole lot because the dude's busy.
Yeah.
Like last night, we're sitting there. I'll give you an example. It was about 6 o'clock, and he's been like, he's had to be on. Like, he's got all these people in town, and he's in charge. I watched him. The dude was kind of stressed a little bit. And I said, hey, man, we're going to have some drinks tonight. He goes, Rusty, I can't. I got a busy day tomorrow. I said, Shannon, when do you not have a busy day? And he goes, shit, you're right. I said, you can go home and go to bed right now, and you're still going to be busy tomorrow. You're going to be busy the next day. I said, Shannon, you wake up every day, and you play Alabama at night in Tuscaloosa. That's the best way to describe it. Like, you better buckle up every day. He goes, damn right. You know what he did? He went out and had some drinks last night.
Yeah, there you go.
Shannon, the one thing I'll tell you, he's probably the smartest business guy I've ever been. But what I admire the most about Shannon is if he's wrong, he's wrong. He tries to fix it. He's not like, he don't beat his chest. If I give him an idea, I know he at least thinks about it. Like, I've given him 2 ideas. Probably don't need to say it, but I've given him 2 ideas in the probably last 6 months, and he did both. And he was like, yep, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And so he listens, but he walks in a room and he absolutely freaking owns it. Like yesterday, I could sense, you hear a little cracking in his voice, and these are the top players in the country, a lot of eyes, these parents, and they're here to hear you speak. And by the time he was done, man, he had the room. We were locked in for the rest of the day, kind of set the tone, but that's kind of who he is, and he's a great dude, man. I mean, this guy is, I tell people all the time, and I've been on his ass. I'm like, shit, he's doing his little round table now, the On3 round table YouTube. That's the interview. I said, Shannon, you need to put these up. People don't know you, man. Like, you're the guy. You're the biggest guy in college football recruiting since 1995. You're the guy. No offense, Shannon. Nobody knows who you are. Put yourself out there, and those things they've blown up. You know what I mean? Like, his personality and things like that. So I have to nudge him along every now and then. But he's the greatest son. I'm gonna tell you now, he's got a son, Jack Terry. Yeah. And Jack
runs the social media.
Jack's a stud now. I'm telling you, Jack. I told Jack, we're sitting there last night. I said, here's the future CEO. Jack's like, hell no, don't say that. Don't say that. But he's a stud, man. He's sharp. Man, he gets it from his dad.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, whose phone blows up more, do you think, Shannon's or Kirby Smart's?
Well, you know what? Being around those guys a little bit, here's the thing I've learned, and here's what people don't realize the situation. Those 2 guys' phone go off constantly, and 99% of the time, it's never great news. Nobody's calling them going, hey, man, Rusty Mansell did great this week in class. He had 4 A's, and his study hall was so good. It's like, hey, Rusty Mansell didn't go to class this week. Shannon get a call, hey, we lost 50 subs last night. Somebody wants X amount. It's never. So those 2 guys kind of parallel, have to make that decision at night when you're going to turn your phone off, because it's gonna be right back the next morning. You know what I mean? At some point, everybody I've had so many people over the years reach out, want Shannon's cell phone number, and I'm like, dude, I don't do that. Yeah. And it's people probably at times he needed to talk to. I'm like, I just can't, man. That's not. I don't do that. If you DM him and he gives it to you, but I just don't do that, because he gets pulled so many different directions. But you start talking about SEC coaches. I've spent some time around Sam Pittman. I mean, these guys' phones all day long. It is insane the amount of phone calls and text messages they go through.
Yeah, and I mean that's part of it, I guess. You
get big boy pay, you get big boy problems.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. So, but man, you are right now in that sweet spot. This is literally has to be the best time ever to be covering Georgia.
Whew.
Could you have imagined after a title streak going on, our lives now back to back, maybe 3 for 3? This fan base has got to be on cloud 9.
I thought about it on the way up here. I don't know why this game in particular, Kirby's first year, 2016. They went to Ole Miss and got ran out of they got embarrassed
by Hugh.
And Georgia didn't even, Ole Miss was the better looking team. They had the better looking players. Now Georgia had a few guys, but Ole Miss just sliced them up. I was thinking, I don't know how this is going to turn out. They got to flip this roster right now. So if you'd have told me that night, hey, don't worry about things, because they're about to win back to back.
Yeah.
In a couple of years. So I think the roster at Georgia now, when you see them, and I said this in January, no offense to TCU, but when I watch TCU walk in media day, I don't gamble. But I got some buddies that do, and I said, let me tell you something. That team ain't beating Georgia. I can promise you that quarterback better be a super freak, because they don't look like Georgia.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long. They covered them up, obviously.
Yeah. Well, going back to that first year, because I really wanted to ask you this: is Georgia today? If Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, and that group don't decide to come back, and there was probably a lot of reason not to. Struggles year one, Kirby.
That's a great point.
They don't know him. They know him, but not like the players know him now. That was the incredible level of buy-in when all those guys could have went to the NFL.
So that decision of Davin Bellamy, Lorenzo Carter, Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, those guys to come back, because Kirby's 8-5, and covering Georgia,
lost to Vanderbilt,
covering Georgia, I knew how people were negative recruiting against. Everybody was saying, look, Kirby can recruit. There's no doubt Kirby can recruit. He can't win. He just went 8-5. You know what I mean? And if they don't have those guys, they might be 8-5 again. And you never know what happens.
Right.
You know what I mean? So those guys come back. Fromm obviously takes that job, has a great year with that deal. And that decision from those guys, maybe I can or can't say, they're doing a Sony and Nick are filming some stuff for a later story, and they asked me to be in it, and I went down and met with them a couple months ago and shot some stuff, and that was one of the parts I talked about, the decision of these two guys to come back. And I remember hearing Kirby talk about it. He said Nick Chubb walked in, and he said, kind of his pit, he's like, oh God, I'm about to lose Nick Chubb. And Nick said, Coach, I just lost to Georgia Tech. My last game, that's not going to be my last game. I'm not walking off that field. You know what I mean? So those type of players is what turned this thing and built it. Now, they lose that game, obviously, and that crushed them. But what they did to build and give Kirby's staff kind of vouch for them now. Then they can get the players. They can get, but you can go to the Rose Bowl. You can play in the national championship. So that kind of jump-started, I think, Kirby's run here at Georgia.
And now I think the biggest challenge is just not being complacent. And he talks about it. We're not going to be hunted.
Yeah.
And he come from the perfect dynasty at Alabama to understand how to accomplish that. But how challenging do you think that is with everybody coming at Georgia for as long as Kirby's going to be there?
The dude's seriously messed up, wired different. I don't know how he finds it in him. We had a podcast on this week, and we had Matt Godwin, who was the director of player personnel. He was Kirby's side by side now for five years. He was Kirby's first contact. He just left to go in the corporate world. We asked him what makes Kirby different. He goes, dude, he is nonstop. He goes, it's not like, some coaches I know are humans and they take a day off. He goes, this dude, there's no days off. If he's somewhere, he knows with his family, whatever, he'll tune out for a little while. But 11 o'clock at night, if he texts you, you better know what's going on.
Right.
With this kid, you better know who's coming tomorrow, like camps at Georgia today. I guarantee they had a meeting this morning, and you better know the 50 kids at your position are there and who he needs to see while he's there. He doesn't, attention to detail. So like maintaining and I don't think complacency is going to be a problem. You know what I mean? I think Kirby, the way he's wired and the way he, he's demanding now. So I don't think he's ever going to allow that. And it doesn't mean they're going to win 20 national championships, but I have zero hesitation saying there won't be any complacency in that building.
Right. And I don't know if you caught this, but just recently, Nolan Smith was on the Chris Long podcast.
I hadn't seen that.
It was pretty good. He was talking about, I guess they have something, I think they call it Bloody Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, they get after on Tuesday.
Where he basically said from the first drill till drill 15, I mean, it's insane. And we're talking, former 5-star, number 1 overall prospect. And he's saying, I play every unit, play special teams, and it's good on good, and it's hell.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I have to imagine that those Tuesdays are incredible, more difficult than the games on Saturday.
It makes my back hurt thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like I'm already thinking about the copay from how bad that would hurt. You know what I mean? So physicality, and I get a lot of people ask me about the leaked locker room, pregame speeches and stuff, and so I actually got lucky and played around. Good friend now, his good friend, DJ Shockley. We were playing golf a couple weeks ago in David Pollock's golf tournament. And Shockley goes, "Did you hear that last one? It was leaked." I said, "Yeah, right at National Championship game." He goes, "Yeah, that wasn't from that game." I said, "Okay." He goes, "Let me tell you something. The speech he gave before they walked on the field," he goes, "I've never heard anything like it." He goes, "I was ready to buckle the chin strap." And that type of fire every week, when you can take 5-stars, well, you can take Nolan Smith and all these super freaks, and you get them just ready to rumble right before. I mean, that's little things like that. You know what I mean? That's kind of what they're kind of dealing with right now. So you got to replace these guys. I've known Nolan since 8th grade. I mean, he's been a different dude his whole life. Like, it's hard to replace one of those in the locker room, because Nolan, you wasn't practicing hard. I don't care who you were. He would get in your, what.
Yeah.
So those are hard to replace those now.
You lose a guy like Barry Alexander.
Yeah.
And Kirby. I mean, Kirby was, wish him well, but it doesn't seem like they're hitting the panic button. They just lost 2 offensive tackles to the NFL. Yeah. That's for 99% of college programs. That's good luck next year. But it seems like
them with 2 5s. Marius Mims,
That's where Georgia's at right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's about big people.
Yeah.
Big people. Look, you look at Barry Alexander and the Georgia fans, kind of they got pretty ugly on Twitter, and I understand, it's just the way it is. And he wasn't going to start this year. And he's going to play some, but they got guys right. I mean, you kind of got to wait your time a little bit, So
just like Nolan Smith, who I just mentioned.
Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson wasn't playing at Georgia. He was a first rounder. 15 months later, he was a first rounder. So you got to either kind of wait your time, or some of these kids are going in the portal.
Well, I'm glad you referenced him, because he was the last chance you, and you went and covered it, right?
Yeah, man.
Can you share any of that?
So that was a wild day, man. So I had gotten in communication with him and didn't really know him. I said, "Hey, look, I always wanted to come out there." And I said, "What's the kind of schedule?" I said, "Look, was there any kind of deal with Netflix? Am I going to be in trouble if I'm there?" And he goes, "Let me talk to my coach." I knew he was going to talk to Jason, And so I go in, and he DMs me back, and he goes, "Yeah, when you want to come?" I said, "Well, let's see if this day will work." And he said, "Can you call me?" I said, "Yeah." So I called him. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm about to commit to Georgia." I was like, "When?" He's like, "When can you come out here?" I said, "Hold on now. Let me look at my calendar." I was like, "What about like next Monday?" He goes, "Yeah, let's do it." I said, "Have you told anybody this?" He goes, "The coach." I said, "Have you told your media?" And he goes, "No." I said, "Don't. I'll be out there. I'm coming out there, so let me get this story." So I fly into Tulsa, and I drive up, and I'll never forget, man. Like, when I landed in Tulsa, it was the last building I saw for like 2 hours. I was like, holy moly, man. So I went out there, and it was the second season. So that show had blown up. It was huge. And I roll in there, and I owe Coach Brown a big one, and I've told him this many times. I rolled in there, and Netflix did not want me there. They didn't want me filming anything because they own the rights to everything. Yeah. So I go back, I call 24/7. I'm like, "Look, dude, I'm out here, and Netflix just shut me down, basically." So Jermaine's like, "You talk to Coach Brown?" I said, "Man, I'm not talking to him. Like, I'm not going to ask him for a favor and get my ass cussed out,
Yeah.
So I talked to him for a minute, and he goes, they're going to lunch for about 2 hours. I said, "You may get him?" He said, "Just get him." So no kidding, man. I owe Coach Brown a big one on that. So they come in, and I film everything. They came back from lunch early.
Oh, man.
So I don't know what discussion took place. But I kid you not, they came in. They wanted me to sign some papers.
Mm-hmm.
I signed some paper, called the office, signed some papers, and they were like, "You're good." I was able to run the story that night. But Coach Brown literally either told them it was going to happen or negotiated for me to be able to do that, because he wanted Jermaine to get the attention. He didn't want to wait a year for the content. So it was cool. I wound up being on the show, and I remember it getting closer to release day, and I was like, God, I hope he didn't go in there and just rip me behind the scenes, like, let this, whatever. I was like, God, I hope this guy didn't rip me behind the scenes, and he didn't. It was super cool. So I sent him a couple of texts, and when I had a video that I'd never used about him talking about Jermaine, and I forgot I had him on the phone. And he goes, I said, "How good is this guy?" And he goes, "Jermaine Johnson's going to be a first rounder." So when he got drafted that night, I sent it to Coach Brown. I said, "Hey, here's your gift for helping me." And he ran it on Twitter that night, because he had it like 3 years ago.
Right.
So it was really cool, man. That was cool. That was a fun experience.
Yeah.
Well, again, what am I doing on Netflix without the police? I almost got the police called on me, but like, how did this happen,
Yeah, and I'm sure you got a million stories like that, man, in the state of Georgia, where that's where you do most of your work.
Yep.
But I was curious to ask you, who do you think, and this is probably an impossible one to answer because there's so many, but who stands out to you as the best high school prospects that you've ever seen in the state of Georgia?
The one, and people probably like, of course, but he was the first 8th grader I ever wrote about, was Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he was so good, so quick. I was like, this is unbelievable. I mean, he kills me every time I post it, but I got a picture of him with a flat top. He was 6'1", 170 pounds, 8th grader. And he just, his dad, we still talk, we still text once a week, you know what I mean? And he was the easiest that I've ever seen. One of the most talented, and it didn't work out for him, but I'm telling you, one of the most talented players I've ever seen was Derek Rogers, who went to Tennessee. He was
for Dooley, right?
Yep, he was tied in with Nash Dance, the quarterback. He lived with him. Just kind of couldn't get it together off the field. Kind of a me guy a little bit. But
yeah.
I'll tell you, when Derek was rolling, it was some Calvin Johnson looking stuff. Like, he was a dude now.
Oh yeah.
Going back, one of my Alvin Kamara was one of the first guys. Reuben Foster probably was the funnest defensive player to watch, because he'd knock you into the middle of next week. I remember we were at a high school all-star game. It was called the Rising Seniors. There's only a high school all-star game for juniors in the country at the time, so everybody played. Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson, Reuben Foster, Jordan Jenkins, everybody played in this. Josh Dobbs. This kid was giving Reuben, for whatever reason, we kept jawing at him, like, hey, 5-star, hey, 5-star. Reuben looked at him. He said, "Hey, man," he said, "I'll hit your ass so hard you'll wake up a 3-star." and he wouldn't play. And I was like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna remember that for the rest of my life, man. So, Reuben sent me a video, and I don't even know how I deleted it, man. This is one of the greatest videos ever. He puts on his full Under Armour uniform after the game. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and it's at his house. He's got a tree in his front yard. I don't know how big the tree is because it's dark. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Mansell," and it's kind of grainy. You remember back the videos you used to share? It's kind of grainy. He's like, "Hey, Mr. Mansell, watch this." Oh, he's like, "Hold my phone." He runs over and hits this tree and breaks it in half in his full Under Armour All-Star helmet and everything. I'm like, what is going on, Reuben? Like, he's breaking trees. He's like, "I want to show you how bad I am." I said, "Reuben, I know you're bad, man," but it was crazy. So,
what's interesting, all those elite prospects from Georgia you just referenced, what do they all have in common?
What do you mean?
None of them went to Georgia.
None went to Georgia. Yeah.
So, is that something that has changed under Kirby that you think has made them
100%,
who they are now?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And, the state of Georgia has been a major focus.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's with an emphasis also on recruiting the entire country.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you look at the guys you think last year, I mean, Brock Bowers, California, Darnell Washington, Las Vegas, Keely Ringo, Seattle, you know, Kendall Milton, you know, California running backs. They still, this is what I tell people, they recruit inside out. So they're in Georgia first. Mm-hmm. And if they can't find what they're looking for, that position, you know, like obviously Brock Bowers was their number one tight end. You know what I mean? So I think people get caught up in the well, if Georgia didn't offer me, he's not good. That state is so damn deep.
Yeah.
Like everybody's coming to get players. You don't have to beat Georgia. You don't have to beat Georgia and still not get great players in the state of Georgia. So, but yeah, that's a great. I mean, those guys were, and think about it. You know who the lead recruiter on Alvin Kamara was? Kirby Smart.
Really?
You know who the lead recruiter on Reuben Foster was? Kirby Smart. You know, so I remember when Kirby Smart came to Cedartown to recruit Nick Chubb. And those Georgia fans went nuts. They're like, you better get his ass out of here. They're like, Nick Chubb is not going to Alabama, man. You know, so that was one he took an L on, and he wound up, that guy not getting Nick Chubb and letting him go to Georgia, or that guy going to Georgia, might have been the best thing ever happened to Kirby Smart. He had no idea at the time.
Right.
Like, I'm going to get to coach this guy. Like, I need this guy at Georgia. Go ahead and go. Go ahead and commit now, you know. So
there's probably a book there, you know.
No doubt.
And his father is a famous high school coach.
Yeah,
how much does that help him, do you think?
You know, I think football, Kirby's got an older brother that was like a swimmer. Sister's an athlete. She's a cheerleading coach in the metro Atlanta area. And I think more of what I know with his parents is his ethic, the work ethic. You know, I think football and sports has always been important to him, but I think what his parents assaulted are teachers now. I mean, that's what they are. And you know, I kind of mentioned to him, like, man, you got, you know, I guess you got a place in Bahamas now, and you got a lake house. I was like, back in the day, you were just happy to go play a 9-hole course. If your dad dropped you off in $5, like, you were rolling. You know what I mean? Back so you kind of look at where he is, but I think his parents, not so much. He grew up with football, but you know, all his whole family didn't do that. I think the work ethic that his dad, same way with Mike Bobo, his dad, George Bobo, and Mike Bobo, and Sonny Smart, and Kirby Smart, they were all in that southeast Georgia, Thomasville, Bainbridge, south corner there. Those two guys obviously are wired football-wise, but I think what their parents instilled in them, like the ethic, the work ethic, and how to you got to put your nose in the grind and go do it. I think that's kind of what separates those guys. And
he's not been a head coach very long, but he's already got an impressive coaching tree being built with Shane Beamer, Pittman, Mel Tucker,
Dan
Lanning. Can you share anything stand out from when Shane Beamer was down there?
You know what, Shane Beamer was only there for a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I think what's made Shane Beamer successful is he knows the ins and outs of how somewhere like Georgia works. Like Kirby brought over how Alabama works. You know what I mean? How we're recruiting these guys, how we're getting these guys. Kirby brings that over. I think Shane Beamer having to recruit against Georgia and knowing those guys and being different places. The one thing I think that Shane Beamer is doing, especially in this class, is they're trying to change that roster on offense and defensive line. Mm-hmm. You got to have big dudes, man. You got to. They got a quarterback coming back. They got playmakers. But I think what they're doing right now, matter of fact, that, you know, many people think Dylan Stewart might be, you know, the top overall prospect in this class, and they're in it for him now. I'm telling you, it's not just a story. Like they're in it for him.
Right.
And to say that kind of tells you what things they're doing right.
Yeah, and I'm just so impressed with his first year. They literally got slaughtered by A&M.
Sure. Oh yeah.
It's like they didn't belong on the same field. Clemson killed them. Tennessee killed them.
Well, look last year.
And they flip it. They beat all those teams.
Yeah. Well, look last year how they finished.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas ran them out of the building.
Yeah.
Early in the season. Like you're thinking, man, if you looked at that team. And I'm telling you, they're going to beat Tennessee and Clemson. I'd probably have got a drug test right there. You probably would say, Rusty, I need you to go in the bathroom and bring this cup back out. Yeah. But look, it shows you it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. How can you get a team, get the most, and get them together? So I think they did a great job with that. And it's going to be interesting because they're not going to sneak up on anybody. Mm-hmm. Like their people are going to know that you got to strap it up. And we'll see. They got a quarterback coming back, played a lot of games, finished strong. So I'd be interested to see how South Carolina, were they week 3 in Athens, 3:30?
CBS.
So that's kind of I don't think people expect them to beat Georgia, but can you compete? Can you go into Athens and put on a good show and say, hey, look, we're getting closer. We're trying to close the gap. We'll see what happens with that.
What about Pittman? I know we both love that guy, but I mean, Arkansas, basically what Bielema was building, it basically went under overnight when he got hired by Kirby Smart. But thankfully for Georgia fans, they have sustained it. But he has built Arkansas quickly.
Sneaky good. I'm telling you, they had a great offseason. It doesn't make national news, but getting KJ Jefferson back, how dangerous he is when he's healthy. That was a huge deal for them, getting him back. So I know they didn't have a great year last year. I think they've had some great portal additions. You know, just talking to some people in that program, there's some quiet confidence that, hey, just let everybody talk about everybody else right here. We're the little Arkansas over here.
Yeah.
You better watch. I'm telling you now, there's some people out there that think they've got a sneaky good roster.
Right, and for the first time ever, well, there's no manageable SEC schedule, but they usually give him the murderer's row.
Oh my God!
And this year it's not quite as bad either.
Yeah, I mean we don't have like Texas, Georgia, all these schools. You know, like what? Who was? I know Pittman probably looked at it and go, "What do we do? Who scheduled this?" You know, so they went to BYU. You know, and so I just think when you look at them, and I know as you start getting more deep into teams, I think KJ Jefferson and Arkansas are going to be one of those teams that we look back this time next year and go, hey, they were a team.
And you know, how surprised were you? I know it's hard to remember back a couple of years, but the first week, it was Sam Pittman's first game, Georgia, Arkansas, and I mean for a half there, I mean it looked like upset special.
Well, you think about it, that was kind of the starting of Stetson Bennett.
Yeah,
because they started
Mathis, right?
Mathis.
Yeah.
So God, I can't believe I forgot that. They looked terrible. Like they looked like, man, Arkansas. There was like 12 people in the stands. You know what I mean? That game. But you look at that and that half, and that was kind of a prelude to Arkansas. It was going to be better than we thought. And Georgia was like, they got quarterback issues, and then Stetson Bennett has to come in and kind of salvage that game. And you get back home and you're thinking, all they're waiting on is JT Daniels. You know, and then next thing you know, Stetson Bennett never really gave it back.
But of course, that was also supposed to be Jamie Newman.
What
in the world happened there?
You know, I don't know 100%, but I just think it probably got some bad advice.
Yeah,
you know, he had
certainly.
Well, I know he had, but somebody told him, "Hey, you may not get this job, and if you don't, and you sit the bench, you're not getting drafted."
Right.
Well, guess what? He didn't get drafted.
Right.
You know, so you hate it for the young man, but I just think he had a couple of scrimmages. I think he got kind of panicked, like, wait a minute, I might not win this job. I can't sit over here, you know. And you think about somebody like Joe Milton who hung around when he didn't get it. What was he thinking? Now he's the guy.
I really wanted to ask you this too, because of that coaching tree, and I know you know that program so well. I'm not trying to push any assistants out the door, but we know with Georgia's success, they're going to have more head coaches. Glenn Schumann that guy?
Glenn Schumann's that guy. And I tell Georgia fans this when I ask, if you're hiring the right people, people are going to leave.
Yeah.
And Kirby is hiring the right people. So Glenn Schumann basically turning down the Eagles was a massive win for Kirby Smart. But eventually he's going to be a head coach. Yeah. And that's the right path. I mean, that's also a great selling point for Kirby. Like, if you come here and you do good, you're going to be a head coach probably, most likely. So people don't realize, I think Glenn Schumann's like 34, I think. He didn't even play college football. I mean, this guy is an elite recruiter. He's obviously he's very respected already, X's and O's. Kids love him. But he's got the makings of a head coach. But I think, you know, there's a lot of Kirby in him where Kirby was very calculated on his next move. Yeah. You know, obviously he turned Georgia down probably twice to be the DC. And that probably pissed a lot of Georgia fans off. Well, guess what? He had a long game in mind. So Glenn Schumann can be very picky on his next move. You know what I mean? So people know he calls the defense. It's not – sure, he game plans with Muschamp and Kirby Smart and all them, but it's on him. And when the bullets are live, he's making the call. So there's no question there. He's an elite recruiter, good person. Kids love him. So I think at some point he's going to be a head coach.
Yeah. Any idea? I don't know if you can share this or not, but did Alabama, did they try to get him away this offseason?
I don't know that 100%, but I would, if I had to bet my mortgage, they definitely probably sniffed around. Said, hey, look, I mean, his wife went to Alabama.
Didn't he go there? Because he went
to Alabama. His wife went to Alabama. I think his in-laws were Alabama people. I mean, he's got a lot of ties to that program. So it'll be interesting if and when, if he ever were to go there. But I think can be very calculated. He's making $1.9 million now. You know what I mean? He's in a different tax bracket. So.
Who is Georgia's main rival right now? Is it Alabama?
I would probably say Alabama.
Yeah,
I would probably say Alabama just because of the games, and every time they play, something's on the line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like, hey, they're just going to roll up and play the fourth game. Like when they play, somebody's season's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you look at that rivalry and those games. I'll tell you this, man. If Georgia plays Ohio State again, this is going to be ramped up because the two fan bases after that game and after the hit on Harrison, it's been and the thing about it is they recruit the exact same kids. I mean, they're all it's Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama are head to head almost on everybody, which is crazy.
When we were at media days,
I
remember because I had Stetson Bennett ranked low.
Yep.
A lot of people did.
Yep.
And you sat down and you said.
Yep.
You screwed up on that one because
well, I told you,
the offense is going to be awesome.
People were sleeping.
And they were.
Yep.
I mean, Tennessee was good, but Georgia was just a notch below them.
Yep.
So what can you share about this year's team? What do you think? I mean, is it just going to be like a brick wall defense, or what's going on?
Their offensive line is really good. It's really good. Here's what I'll say. I think Carson Beck is primed for a really good year. But I'll be cautious with that because you got to see nobody on that team has played what I call meaningful minutes.
Yeah.
Nobody has started on that Monday that they're about to play South Carolina, and you have to deal with that the whole week. All the pressure, big time SEC game, everybody in the country, nobody's had to feel that because Stetson took all that the last 2 years. So with Carson Beck, I think he's going to be the guy. I think he's going to hold on to the job. And everybody I talked to is like, this guy he's got a cannon. I mean, he has gotten so much better. He's so much focused. But the thing about Georgia is it starts up front, man. I mean, Cedric Van Pran, Tate Ratledge, Amarius Mims, Xavier Truss, those are 1 percentile human beings. They're all 6'7", 330, and they're mauled. Like Cedric Van Pran is the best center in college football. He's smart. He can make calls. Tate Ratledge has played in, seems like 300 games. Amarius Mims, if he were to walk in here right now, you would not believe what he looks like in person. He's 320. He looks 250. I mean, he's a 1 percentile guy. You know what I mean? So, now I will say this. As we sit here next year, they're going to have to replace those guys. But when I sit back and think of Georgia, they're going to always be good on defense. But for me, it starts up front. Their offensive line will absolutely maul you.
And one guy we haven't even referenced, he may have been the best offensive player since the moment he arrived on campus, Brock Bowers.
He is the best player on the team.
I mean, could he win the Heisman, do you think, this year?
He's not going to win the Heisman. I would have a hard time.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with Georgia, and they're going to get killed in SEC Media Days, and you know this. The Oklahoma game getting taken away, their schedule's bad. It's bad, and when you look at that, I don't know if he's going to have enough big games.
Yeah.
Till if they make it in the playoff, all the voting will be done.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think when you look at Bowers,
and they'd probably have to force feed him, and that's not Georgia's way.
No, man, listen, he don't have to play another snap ever at Georgia. He's a top 10 pick.
Right.
He's not wired like that. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna go out and give it his all, but he's gonna have attention, and everybody's gonna know to focus on him. So how does that make the receivers around him get more touches? Oscar Delp's the next guy. I'll give you a little insight. Lawson Lucky, as a true freshman, he's gonna be a dude now at tight end. So that tight end room is gonna be stacked again. I just think Brock Bowers he's elite, and they tell me when I ask about him, the coaches kind of laugh because they take his GPS readings every day, and it's never this way. Every single rep for him is like this. He never takes a snap off in practice, and that's why that guy's different.
Wait, you referenced the schedule.
Yeah.
The only issue there, I mean, complacency's not been an issue for Kirby, but they have to be hearing it. You're a 20-point favorite in every damn game you play, and it kind of, I don't want to compare them to Ohio State. The year they won the championship and they brought everyone back and they were a lock to win it all. They lost one game. They got upset one time.
And
because of the weak schedule, that kept them out.
Sure. That's
probably Georgia's biggest issue, right?
Yeah, and you know, people remember all the games that they look like the national champs. They don't always look like the national champs. I mean, Kent State gave them fits last year.
Yeah,
you know,
Mizzou.
and Mizzou didn't play great there at all. You know, and you know, Mississippi State was not a great. You know, but. So I think that's going to be Kirby's challenge is because I don't care what he says, and I don't care what Nolan Smith says. Nobody's predicting him to go 7-5. Nobody in the galaxy predicted him to go 7-5. Maybe Nolan Smith's like cousin made up something. Nobody predicted Georgia to go 7-5. So, but it's going to be every week they're going to hear about, hey, you're going to beat Tennessee Martin by 60. You're going to beat Ball State by 50. And listen, they're 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. They know that team is outmanned.
Yeah.
So how can you play, and how can you get ready for South Carolina? Because I'm telling you, man, I don't want to get too far ahead, but that Knoxville game late in November, Georgia, Tennessee, that's going to be a game.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait for that one. Any early buzz on Dominic Lovett, Ra Thomas?
Dominic Lovett has definitely –
two of the best players in the SEC last year. Just I think they were not in offenses that could showcase that.
Yeah,
you know?
I think Dominic Lovett is going to be an instant impact. Everybody I talked to said this guy's a weapon. And I think that's what Georgia wanted to have, another guy kind of like Ladd McConkey who's tough. Like I call it that short area suddenness. Like they can make you whiff. You got to win one-on-ones, and they can make you whiff in coverage in a small area. And I think Dominic Lovett's a guy that's really going to take off. Now, Ra Thomas, you know, it took him a little bit to kind of adjust how Georgia practices now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little different from where he came from.
Right.
So doesn't mean this guy's not going to be a contributor this year. He's going to play.
Yeah.
But if you're asking me between the two, I think Dominic Lovett's going to be the guy that's going to get the early buzz, and if he stays healthy, like he's going to be a major weapon for them.
And I'm pretty sure he got hurt against Georgia last year.
Yep.
Had he not gotten hurt, maybe they beat Georgia. You know, because he was that good.
Dude, you know, Georgia's probably sitting there going, man, if we can get that dude, we got to get that guy. You know, they had film on him. I can assure you that they knew what he could do against us. So, but Dominic Lovett, I think, is a guy that's really gonna be like day one. Like he's in the rotation right now. Ra Thomas is gonna be there too.
Yeah,
I think he's had to adjust a little bit. And Kirby don't sugarcoat it at practice. He don't care who you are. The stars go out the window with him.
Yeah,
you know, for real quick.
All right, last thing for you, Rusty. I really appreciate all your time.
Yeah,
Georgia or the field? If you were a betting man to win the national championship third in a row, that's
so hard.
Crazy.
It's so hard to do that.
Which way would you lean there?
I'm going to take Georgia.
Remember, DawgsHQ is listening.
DawgsHQ, yeah. It's a business decision here. I'm going to take Georgia, and the reason I'm going to take Georgia is because I still feel like they're elite in the right positions, and that's offensive line and defensive line. There's a lot of teams with great players. A lot of teams. Ohio State's loaded. Alabama, you know, it's going to be about quarterback play at Alabama. But when you look at these teams in person, everybody wants to see what Texas can do, and USC is going to have the number one pick. But you look at USC, and when I watched that Utah game, and they got steamrolled up front.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So somebody is going to have to out-physical Georgia to beat them, and I don't know right now that there's a team that can do that. But certainly the odds of Georgia winning it 3 in a row is not great. It's just something happens, like you said, upset here and there. They had some points last year where they almost lost. Ohio State was probably the game of the year, you know, and look how that happened.
Came down to a kick.
Came out last kick. So they're not head and shoulders above the field, but somebody is just going to have to out-physical Georgia. I'm not sure right now that I would take that bet.
Mm. So. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Awesome.
Before you go, can you, obviously everybody knows where to find you, but can you plug?
Yeah, man. When you go to On3, we have a easy drop-down screen, DawgsHQ.com is where you can go for the Georgia stuff. We had big news last night. Tim Watts and the Alabama crew came rolling. Speaking of my rivals, man, one of my best friends, Tim Watts, comes rolling in with his crew, and what a great thing there. So social media, Twitter obviously is kind of where I've made my hay for information, and that's Rusty Mansell _. Had to change from the old Mansell 247. So everybody's like, "You're not Mansell 247 anymore?" I was like, "No, I'm this other dude now." So it's Rusty Mansell _ there, and look forward to it, man. I know you're probably beaming with SEC Media Day is going to be about 2 blocks over from right here.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. One more thing, because I know you love Nashville.
Oh man,
but every Georgia legend, they retire in Athens.
Yeah.
Rusty Mansell, let's hope 30 years down the line, whenever you hang him up, you going to stay in Georgia, or you coming to Nashville?
Well, if y'all don't stop growing, I can't afford anything here, I'm almost like that, every 4 or 5 months I just come. Shannon goes sometimes like, "I didn't know you were even here." I was like, "I don't have to see you every time I'm here." So I love the vibe here. I love live music.
Yeah.
Now, I don't love Friday night and Saturday night live music because you can't move. Right. I like Tuesday night, Wednesday night live music. You can come in and hang out, and anytime the office calls, they're like, "Hey, we got a Zoom Tuesday." I was like, "I can be up there now, 3.5. I'd much rather do it in person, So, my kind of end game is some type of water, either beach or lake.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I'll tell you this: Stacy Searles, who's the O-line coach at Georgia, told me this about 2 years ago, and we're girl dads. He and I both have all girls, so we have that, and we're from the same area, and we talk a lot about stuff like that. And he said Mac Brown told him this, and he said, Mac Brown said, "Stacy, if you want your grandkids to come around, you got to have some type of water. You better have a pool, lake, or beach." Well, Stacy's in a different tax bracket than I am, so he's already got the lake. You know what I mean? So maybe I'd put the above ground pool in or something. But that's kind of my end game, is some sort of water.
I got you.
I like it. I'm a beach or lake guy for sure.
Well, you're well on your way to getting there. So
I hope so. If anybody wants to join, it's like $1 right now. I don't even know. Again, like, how the hell am I here and people are paying $1 to even read something I write? But it's great, man. I really appreciate it, you having me, and again, I'm a fan. Love what you do, and my man, cousin Shane's on the workout, right?
Oh yeah. He's down 35 pounds. He's walking his way to the SEC football seat. I couldn't be happier for him.
I see it, man. Good, but he's for real when you see his videos, and he's got the real sweat ring. What's right here? It's about 2 inches deep. That's a real man sweat.
I have to edit these videos because he's huffing, he's puffing, he can't breathe, but he's powering through it. So
y'all had me on last year, or whatever. We asked some questions and everything, and he pulled me aside and peppers me with them Tennessee questions, like, "Now let's be real. What we got here?" I told you last year. I thought Tennessee was getting slept. I was like, "Look, man, that offense stresses you so much." We'll talk about this last subject here, but that's a team I'm very interested in, because it's almost like a Major League Baseball pitcher. If you get a guy that's dominant and you've seen it once, you try to make that adjustment. So Alabama plays zone, and they carved them up.
Yep.
I knew that night that Georgia wouldn't play in zone. Tennessee might beat them, but they were not going to let those guys free release, and Georgia challenged them. So now you start looking at that game in November, and you go, Heupel's, okay, this is how Georgia's going to play me. This is what I've got to do. So how does Kirby counteract that, Glenn Schumann? So I still think Tennessee stresses you so much. They go so fast. They spread you out so far. Like, I've never seen a team go outside the hashes with, like, trips. Like, it's crazy the formations they put you in. So
people keep saying it's like facing the option almost.
Yeah. The numbers
so unique.
The numbers in the box stress you to death. Like, you've got to get pressure. And so I think when you look at that, I'm very interested in how that match up this year. But I still think Tennessee's a team that Joe Milton, obviously, I wouldn't want to put more pressure that's on the kid. But, man, watching Nico throw that thing in that spring game, whew. You talking about a live arm? Holy. So I think Tennessee's a team. Again, it's going to be up front for them.
Yeah.
Can they get Georgia got physical with them?
Mm-hmm.
Can they get physical enough to beat a team like that? So we'll see.
That game really just came down to Jalen Carter dominating.
They got the one-on-one matchups they wanted with him.
Yep.
So Matt Godwin told me the other night on the podcast, he said, when we played Bama in a national championship, one of our goals was to get Jalen Carter on their center. And we wanted to get that matchup 10 or 12 times. And Jalen impacted the game 7 or 8 times in that game. So you don't really think about stuff like that, but having him on talked about that. So certainly Jalen Carter mismatches sometimes, and that goal line, everybody thinks about the goal line play, he goes right through the guard and the running back.
Mm-hmm.
So physical, I'm still
pissed off.
Pissed off the Falcons not taking him. I mean, nobody's paying to watch him play Jeopardy and take a test. Like, this dude's a machine. He is a football player. He's got a lot. Rusty Mansell. They like, get after this dude. Let's go get him. I'm on the air in Atlanta, and I was preaching to the gods. Take him. But I was happy with Bijan as a Falcon. I'll tell you, he's a good player. So I'm excited about it. So.
Well, hey, Rusty, I really appreciate you. I know you got to get out of here, so I could talk all day. But let's cut this short, and we'll see you at media days.
Oh yeah, I'll be here. Let's stop by, get this thing rocking then.
Yeah.